What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Roll Pod, previewing the SEC Championship. Alabama set to take on Georgia and Mercedes-Benz for seemingly like the 100th time since I've been alive, but not actually. But real quick, before we get into that, signing day on Wednesday, Alabama had a pretty uneventful day, if you will. The expected, flips did so. The expected guys to sign did so. 20 in the fold, sitting at the number 4 overall class with 3 5-stars, which is the most, or tied for most in the country. Highest average rank. So Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, and that crew kind of continuing to roll on. But full coverage on Bama247 for that. We've got roundtables out for potential early contributors and full coverage from signing day. So you can get all that on Bama247. But
quick question.
Yep.
Do we think 20 is going to be the number moving forward? Seems like a sweet spot for what you're going to look for in the portal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was always, I think I mentioned on here, and I've mentioned you guys, it always seemed like it was going to be around 20 to 23. Kalen DeBoer, I said yesterday, tops 2020 or 22. Alabama's still pushing for another commitment. So they may end up with 21. But yeah, it's interesting to see like the discrepancies in all these classes, like USC with 35. And of that 35 is 6 wide receivers. So one, they're probably expecting a lot of turnover. 2, maybe some of these USC commits are getting the bag, get to go hang out in California for a couple months and then go transfer wherever where they want. I don't know. It's interesting. Like Georgia's sitting at 30 commitments. Of the teams that have had no coaching change, Alabama with 20, it's kind of sticking out, but that seemed to be the plan all along for them, and definitely hit the portal heavy, which we'll get into after this week for sure. But like I said, it's SEC Championship week, Alabama and Georgia and Mercedes-Benz, 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. Central Time. Mike, Alex, and I will be there. How are we doing, fellas?
Good. Just to give a thought on that, I feel like it really depends year to year on where your roster is need-wise and how many guys are leaving, how many of your younger players you expect to keep versus having a lot of like veterans that you expect to keep.
Right.
So, this past year, you knew you're keeping, I guess you didn't know until January, but you had a pretty good idea you're keeping a lot of veterans. And so maybe you can add some more freshmen and kind of bolster that part of your roster. But in this particular case, you're losing a lot of veterans. So I don't know if you want to just stack your roster with a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomores. So I think that's when you kind of look more to the portal for the experience. But I don't know if it's every single year is going to be the same formula. I think it's really going to have to depend year to year. And you don't know when you recruit these guys what your roster is going to look like, because this happens, signing day happens before the draft. It happens before the portal. It used to be after in February. Now it's before. So you're kind of guessing a little bit as well. And that means you're filling the gaps through the portal instead of through freshmen.
Yeah. And I think that's probably where they want to be. Because you can actually, it was interesting listening to Courtney Morgan and Bob Welton talk about it a little bit. If you sign for your players, you can spend more money. And I think you look at the top of Alabama's class and you say, well, it might contribute to being able to get those 5-star kids if you're not signing 10 3-stars that are going to, the accumulation of all that might take away some of your budget. So, and focusing it on retention, focusing it on the transfer portal, which they're going to need to do. So it's just interesting. It's just a different time. Like we look at rankings now and you have to take them all with a grain of salt. I think you just have to look at the big picture for what your roster is and what you're bringing in. And I think in that respect, I don't know how much more Alabama fans could have asked for. I think they've sort of hit where they need to be. And hopefully you can turn some of those guys, especially on, offensive and defensive lines, into productive players down the road.
Yeah, and to your point about it's not only it's the portal, it's also like the retention part of it. There's going to be guys that have had good falls, and Courtney mentioned it as well. Like they'll be sitting on the sidelines, and like a guy makes a good play, and it's like, oh, we're going to have to pay. Like there's going to be those meetings as well. And I mean, there's immediate names that come to mind, like a Latsier Brooks. I think can probably walk in and command top dollar and say, here's the other schools that are offering me this, and maybe a Xavier Brown, a Dijon Lee, a Michael Carroll, those guys. So there's that aspect.
And before fans,
everybody's a free agent.
Before fans say, hey, this is unfair, you can't negotiate every year, they have the ability to draw up multi-year deals. The schools don't want to do them either. So there's a little bit of give and take with all of this, and you're you're risking a little bit, but if Brooks hits and you've got to pay him more money, at the end of the day, that's a good problem to have because you found a guy and at least you got a discount for 1 year, and you're probably going to get a hometown discount whenever you retain a guy versus having to go into the portal and replace him.
Yeah, but it's not truly like a contract in the sense that like you can't go anywhere else. Like in the NFL, you have a 2-year deal with a team. You can't go anywhere else. Like you can have a 2-year deal with Alabama. It doesn't prevent you from going to the portal.
Well, there's still a lawsuit out there that might deal with that.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to get to the day where there's going to be employee status and there's going to be a CBA and there's going to be enforceable contracts between a school and a player that will keep them in a particular school for a period of time. But until then, it's kind of But yeah, I would say it's kind of like the NFL draft in that it's like, do you want to put your eggs in the basket into a first round pick and trade up, or do you want more volume? And that's kind of where the money comes in. It's like if you're just paying a bunch of kind of 7th round pick sort of recruits and they don't play, then what's the point of spending that money? If you could pull that money together and put it towards one player that's higher ranked and spend that money more in a condensed way. I think that's part of the thinking as well.
Yeah, 100%. Just a final thought on that. And it's been made pretty clear from the jump. And I think fans know too, like if there's a recruit that's just focused on money, Courtney Morgan and that staff is not going to play around. They're not going to entertain that. I think there's some cases of that with some expected flips kind of elsewhere, to kind of coming in with, other programs coming in with money at the last hour, and Courtney Morgan and that group's just not going to entertain that. So, which I think is probably encouraging for Alabama fans to hear. But again, SEC Championship week, let's start with injuries. I think we'll start with that. Obviously, Jam Miller and Josh Cuevas. Josh Cuevas obviously out for the Auburn game, the Iron Bowl. Jam Miller had his best game in a very long time, and then comes up hobbled up. That seems like he's trending away. Josh Cuevas the same way. I'll let you guys kind of take the reins, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't know how much I expect either one of those guys to play. The questionable one that I wonder about is Cam Dewberry, which it sounds like there's probably some optimism with. We talked about it before. I think Cuevas is probably a bigger loss than Jam is, just because of what you've seen production over the last over the season, and then what I think Daniel Hill is capable of. The LT Overton thing is the big one, the surprise that there wasn't really any rumblings of. You just pull up the SEC availability report, and there he is. He's out, and he's one of your best players. Hasn't quite reached that All-American level that I think a lot of people were expecting coming off of last season, but still one of your more productive guys, and gives you a lot of value in terms of being able to get after the quarterback, but not be a liability in the running game either. So Jordan Renaud, Keon Keeley, you're up. Going to be an interesting game to see how those two guys respond to increased snaps.
Right. I mean, and you have Kobe Collins going down as well today. So that was a guy that maybe in a pinch you could probably push outside. I mean, he had played a little bit of bandit going back to the spring. And he has played a little bit more as this year has gone on. I feel like they've been intentional, to steal a Kalen DeBoer word, about putting him in the lineup and getting him on the field and early in games too. And he's part of your top 5 at tackle. So, you're already down Beeman. So now you have 4 to 5 guys at tackle between Keenan, James Smith, London Simmons, Edric Hill, and Isaiah Fega. So, and then you have 3 bandits, Renaud, Keeley, and Fatutoa Henry. So it's not ideal against Georgia, because Georgia is big, physical. They can run the ball. Overton, I feel like, has been a good player against the run. I don't know what his PFF grade is there, but I feel like between him and Keenan, like you have some stoutness. You lose some of that. Renaud's a little bit of a smaller player, if you will, or thinner player than Overton is. But as Kalen said today, maybe they do some different things with Quay Russo off the edge, Yanze Pierre, so they can align in a different way that maybe doesn't have Renaud or Keeley on the field, or whatever the case may be. So at the end of the day, whether Overton's back, whether Overton was playing or not, you need to stop the run against Georgia, because that was a problem in that first game. And want to say you're lucky to get away with it, but like you give up the numbers that you gave up to Bowens and Nate Frazier, like it was 8-9 yards a carry. Same thing with Tennessee a couple weeks later. Like you can't have one of those games and just get out of it alive. I think you're playing with fire a little bit if that happens again. So that's to me is the bigger concern than Gunnar Stockton throwing down the field. And I think you still have a pretty good pass rush with Pierre. Maybe Keeley plays some more snaps there.
Pretty good compared to what it was.
Right.
What expectations is pretty good.
Right. But you're still losing something from a pass rush standpoint with Overton too. So in both directions, run and pass, it's a big loss. And I think losing Collins on top of that just kind of, is insult to injury, if you will, in terms of the depth at that position.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth there. I was gonna, we're talking about defense. We'll start on that. Is it? You think it's all the focus in that room is stop the run? They're not really concerned a whole lot. Like if Gunnar Stockton's going to beat us through the air, he's going to beat us through the air type of thing. I feel like he's steadily improved. He's a great runner as well. So I mean, I feel like I kind of answered my own question there. It feels like the focus is on the run. But Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's where it starts with Georgia. And if you can take that away, you can sort of play the game you want to play. That doesn't mean you're going to have success. I mean, Gunnar Stockton can't throw the football. I just don't think you're necessarily scared about what Georgia has at receiver based on what you've seen this season. They can make plays, but they haven't consistently done that. I still wonder about the Georgia tight end room. They didn't really kill Alabama in September like I thought they were capable of. Maybe that comes up in a game like this. If we're going to talk about Alabama's injuries, Georgia's injuries, especially up front with Bobo, how will that play a factor in this game? If you can take away some of that rush and get to Gunnar a little bit, I think they're going to be in a really good place. This defense has played very well the back half of the season. It wasn't great against Auburn, but it was still good. And we'll see if that trend continues. But yeah, there's no doubt it's a Georgia football team. I mean, it doesn't matter who's back there, quarterback. It's Kirby Smart. They want to run the football. And if you can take that away, you're in a much better position as a defense.
Yeah, I mean, Stockton, I'm just looking at his game log here. 4-game stretch. I mean, he wasn't great against Alabama, was not great against Kentucky or Auburn, but then that 4 games against Ole Miss, Florida, Mississippi State, and Texas, 13 touchdowns in those 4 games. Probably just over 1,000 yards if I'm doing the math. And, his QBR from ESPN in all 3 of those games, or on average in 3 of those games, is about 90, 95. So pretty good stretch that he had there.
What was his Tech? Did he have like 75 passing yards or something like that? I mean, they ran
11 for 21 for 70 yards.
They ran the ball down their throat, but like that's
Thorn type shit.
15 carries for 42 yards wasn't even all that great either. I mean, it wasn't a pretty game, but that's kind of what you're concerned about with Georgia is like they don't always.
Kirby doesn't care if it's pretty.
Right. They don't always look pretty, but they typically find a way to win games. I think that Alabama game really that
sounds like Alabama for this year.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of an exception. Right. The Alabama game for them. But they're just they're like the Chiefs in a little way. Like they have like this DNA, like we're gonna win the game. Yeah. And the Chiefs are kind of figuring out they can't always do that these days, but it's like they can be down, anything can be happening in the game, and all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, here we go, let's play. Yeah. And the Chiefs win some games doing that. Mahomes wins some games. And it feels like Georgia kind of does the same thing. Just they have that quality to them. It didn't happen fully in that Alabama game, but damn, they came pretty close. Yeah. So that's kind of what you're afraid of is even if you can kind of play whack-a-mole and shut down their running game or shut down Stockton, like there's the defense, there's other aspects that you kind of have to worry about. They're a pretty balanced team.
Yeah. Kind of really get into the weeds here, but do you guys kind of feel, and we talked about it, that's why I'm bringing it up. Do you feel like kind of Red Morgan maybe he's taken over that Husky role? But again, it's like in certain positions, it doesn't really matter if you start or not. I mean, you're going to get rotated like crazy. So I don't know really how much that matters at all.
Kind of gone back and forth. Because Deshaun Jones, I think, has had multiple injuries. He's popped up a couple times. the more recent one is the hand being in a cast. So I think to me that seemed like it was playing a major role in him not really playing a whole lot in the Iron Bowl. But then you go back a couple weeks before that, I believe it was the Oklahoma game where he was out, and then he came back for Eastern Illinois, but didn't play. So I could be having the timeline a little bit off there, but he's had a couple games here where he's been banged up, Deshaun Jones. So I don't know. In a game like this against Georgia on this stage, like I think you still lean towards the veteran if he's healthy. But if Deshaun's still one-handed, essentially, like Red Morgan's playing well enough that I think you feel comfortable putting him out there. And at the end of the day, you still might play both. So I don't know who will be on the tight ends.
That's where I'm kind of interested, like
right?
Linebacker, because the linebacker group who's played really well, but you brought up the tight ends. I know they haven't looked great, but they have the ability to, they can break one, they can, spread them out. So that's an interesting matchup as well.
They love the screen game. I mean, Bobo, offensive coordinator Bobo, is really big on the screens. So it's really a group effort. Like it may not even be one guy.
Right.
If they do a tunnel screen to the tight end, in the slot, you're going to need 2 or 3 different guys to collapse and bring them down. So it's not as much the one-on-one stuff down the field. You probably have to worry more about that with Zach Branch. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting offense. Like it doesn't always impress you, but it has enough pieces that seem to pop up at the right times that, all of a sudden they score 43 points against Ole Miss and they look really good. And then they score 16 against Georgia Tech and they still win. It's kind of all over the map.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on the defensive side of the ball before we switch over to offense?
No, I think what you guys hit on there, I think it's another one of those games where Keon Sabb, Bray Hubbard are going to be responsible for limiting those explosive plays. And that's the thing that hurt them against Auburn was their inability to get them on offense and then giving them up on defense. And how will those two guys sort of clean up those mistakes when they arise? Because Branch can take a 5-yard route and go 95 yards. So you got to be careful with a guy like that. And then you got in-run support is obviously going to be a really big thing. And I think, Bray's played well all season long, but I've been really impressed the last few weeks with the plays Sabb has made, because I think a lot like Deontay Lawson, he was still working his way into being healthy early in the season. And I think we're just now really starting to see the guy who last year when he transferred in went, oh, holy cow, this guy can play football. So, I think those two guys are going to be really important on Saturday.
Yeah. No Cam Calhoun either. I don't know if you guys remember his big influential play against.
That was in the first half.
Cam Calhoun's on the field. Oh no, he's not anymore.
Right. That was in the first half. So he missed the rest of the game. Right. It doesn't have any impact as far as this game. Again, I don't think he'll play. I never really remembered to ask about that or think about that, but I don't know why Xavier Brown was off the field. I think something must have happened where he just needed to take a play off, and Cam Calhoun comes in and made the most of his one play.
Yes, he did.
He was impactful.
I told you, he gave the ref symposium or however they do it, the intro, like the picture perfect. Like this is what targeting is. This is what the definition of targeting is. Offensive side of the ball. I want to start with offensive line. It seems like over the last couple of weeks, it's improved. They're not rotating a whole lot. Like I said in the last show and in the snap count, you noticed that aside from Geno Vandermark coming in for an injured Parker Brailsford for a little bit, they didn't rotate at all. Seems like Formby on that right side or Formby and then Carroll on the right side have kind of found their groove a little bit. They seem to be improving. Just kind of your thoughts on that group. You feel like it's probably going to stay the same, or you think in a game like this, a game against a physical team like Georgia, do we see a Jaden Roberts? Do we see some other guys, a Cam Dewberry, all those guys, assuming he's healthy, just rotating and trying to keep guys fresh?
Well, that's kind of the first thing is like, what's Dewberry's status? Even if he can play, I go back to the South Carolina game when Geno Vandermark was on the availability report. He could play. He was in uniform, but because he wasn't fully 100%, I don't think he practiced that much that week. Like he didn't really play in that game.
Right.
So if you feel like, and I don't know the exact reps in practice, but if somebody else like Jaden's getting more reps and you feel comfortable with him being in there, I don't think they'll hesitate putting him in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that needs to be forced, to be Dewberry. And if you're already dealing with Parker Brailsford not being 100% as it appeared so in the Iron Bowl, then you're probably just sticking with some combination of Geno and Brailsford and Jaden, and maybe Wilkin. So yeah, I guess you do the math on that. If you need a guard, then you keep Wilkin inside and you have Carroll on the outside. So
I think the right side is not going to change for
right.
foreseeable future unless somebody just gets cooked.
And that allows you to have Geno at cenenter if you need him to spell Brailsford to give him a rest. And then I guess Jaden would be your left guard in that case.
Yeah. And the good news with replacing, I talked to Caden about it on Tuesday. Like, the lack of rotation does help in terms of communication and knowing the guy next to you and what he's going to do. And they've gotten into a better place in terms of run blocking. You take out Cam, you think, oh no, what's that going to do? Well, it's not like he's not used to playing with Jaden Roberts. He's used to playing with him. So would you like a healthy Cam Dewberry? Yes, but I think nothing would surprise me. If he plays, it wouldn't surprise me. But to Mike's point, just because he's available doesn't mean he's going to play. The good news is it's not like this Georgia defense is good, but their front seven's not the Georgia defenses of last year, the year before that. So if you can get a little bit running the football like you did against Auburn, hopefully you can get that passing game going a little bit more. It's very inconsistent at the Iron Bowl. So maybe you can find something there on offense, move the football a little bit more consistently.
I think Georgia's at around 4% sack rate per drop back, which I think is like 107th, 108th in the country, something like that. So they're not a team that sacks you a lot. And that's philosophically not Kirby a ton either. Yeah. It's a lot different than what you see with Venables, but you still need to worry about running the ball effectively against them. And from everything that Jordan Hill has told me from Dogs247, he thinks the secondary's gotten a lot better for Georgia since then, that it's a young secondary and they've kind of figured things out as the season's gone on.
Well, yeah, and the weird thing is I'd say, they can't get to the quarterback. This should be a game Ty Simpson can sit back and pick them apart. Well, when you give Ty a lot of time, sometimes I think he thinks too much.
Yep.
It's not good. So we'll see how that sort of shakes out.
Yeah. Another kind of easy transition. I was going to bring up the quarterback play next. I don't know. It's kind of, and Mike and Alex and I were sitting next to each other in the press box, but I can't get like that first Isaiah Horton touchdown. Arguably, I think that's one of his best plays or throws of the year.
Yeah. But that was the one where he's falling backwards.
Yeah. Okay. But a couple drives before that, it's a wide open Jeremy, and it's more of the same. He can't hit that throw. He's just kind of, I don't know if confusing is the right word from a writer or fan perspective. I just want, I don't know. And also he got. And I know he's not on the injury report, and there's nothing to suggest he's not, but he got banged around. He got hit hard in that Iron Bowl. I don't know how much that may, his psyche or I may be reading too much into that, but just what are your, I don't know, we're going to have a question here, but just.
No, look, is he 100%? I don't think so, but I don't think anybody is.
Right.
So
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I slept 4 hours last night. It is what it is. We push through.
Right.
And that's what Ty's doing. The accumulation of hits is something you worry about because the thing was I like that he ran the football against Auburn and it was effective doing it. Is that something they want to continue doing, putting him in harm's way like that? I don't know. He's way out of rhythm. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He still can make these elite throws, but these in-between throws he's really struggling with. And is it, not being on the same page with your receivers? Is it thinking too much? What is it? I don't know. What's the Ryan Williams of it all? I don't know the answer, but they're just playing out of sync. And I don't know how you get that back other than just continuing to throw the football and hoping it clicks. Because this is not the same passing game we saw in the middle of the season. I don't think anybody who could watch it can say that. Even though there are good throws in there, it's not where it needs to be.
No. And I forget where it was. I think it was on the conference call that Kalen did on Sunday. He was asked about where Ty has improved as the season's gone on. And it kind of took Kalen a second to kind of gather his thoughts. And even me, thinking if somebody asked me that question, I'd be like, there's some things he's probably done better, but you just see more of the questions come up. This is
he's done a little bit better at throwing the ball away and looking to play another down.
I think he's gotten better from the Florida State game. If we're going all the way back there, I think he's gotten better at not just bailing on plays and running and trying to use his legs a lot, because I think that's what he was doing too much of against Florida State. And I think that's what he did too much of in his first 3 years behind the scenes. But he kind of settled into being more of a pocket passer against Georgia. But since then, and really since, South Carolina, it's the accuracy that's just, it's not totally there. It's there with those couple of Horton throws. It's there in some other ones, but it's a hard question to answer. And, Kalen came up with something to answer that. I don't know how I would answer it, but I was also asked on a CBS Sports HQ thing this week, who's the X factor for Alabama in this game? And I said Ryan Williams, because if you can get Ryan Williams going, if you can hit a deep shot, that's what you need. That's what this offense needs. And it's capable as hell of doing it. Yeah. I don't know what more you could ask for from this receiver group. No, it's not Ohio State's receiver group, but it's still a pretty damn good group of receivers. So for it to be this kind of nasty from a deep ball standpoint, 2 of 18, 2 of 19 now for Ty, at some point, you feel like they need to hit one, or they will hit one. And maybe this is the game. Maybe this is the game where Ryan goes off again. I don't know. But to me, that would be game changing. And I can almost picture it sitting in the press box, watching it happen. Yeah. Ty hitting Ryan Williams, and that just changing the game. I watched it happen in 2021 with Bryce Young hitting Jamison Williams in the start of the second half. That was a big play in that game. So I feel like it should be there for Alabama, but it hasn't been. And every single time they try, it's just
well, that was the most bizarre thing about the Auburn game. It's not that he had no catches, it's that he had no targets. And I'm not saying they should do the thing where Tennessee a year ago, where they just force-fed him the ball and they overdid it to some degree, because I think you still try to get your best player the football. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just wonder, every quarter there should be a deep shot. And it feels like Ryan Williams should be that guy, because he can be double teamed and it doesn't matter. He's still got an ability to go up and get the football. So, why not take the shot on first down? Why not do it every now and then? Because to Mike's point, and this is something Kalen DeBoer and the staff has talked about excessively, they want explosive plays. They know they can track through analytics the value of an explosive play. Jamarcus Shepard was listening to his introductory press conference, talked about how an explosive gain is worth 1.3 points or something like that. And if you hit enough of them, it adds up. You got to get those, because this passing game, it's succeeding in spite of itself. It's doing it the hardest way possible. The easiest way possible is to get chunk plays, and they've got to figure out a way to do that, because even if this running game gets better, it's not built to do that. It's the passing game, and to Mike's point, it is as good as Jeremy Bernard is and as good as Isaiah Horton is. Isaiah Horton is a red zone guy. He's more of a possession receiver. Jeremy Bernard is an over-the-middle guy. Ryan Williams is your take the top off. Lazier Brooks maybe can be that guy, but I think you got to try to get him going. If not, there's just we're just going to sit here all offseason going, what the hell happened? Because everybody on this podcast has known he's not as good as everybody made him out to be the first half of last season, but that doesn't mean he's not supremely talented, and they got to figure out a way to get him going.
Well, and that's why I've gotten asked that 100 times, what the hell is happening with him? And I'm I don't know. And then to your point, Alex, about the deep shots, and you called it out multiple times in the press box and Iron Bowl. It was one-on-one with no safety help. It's do it, try it, and to your point, he can catch the ball over 2 guys and catch the ball over 3 guys. So that's kind of, I keep kind of running that back in my mind. It's I just don't understand why they didn't try it.
One of the only things I can think of, and I don't want to put words in Ty Simpson's mouth, because Ty has gone out of his way to defend Ryan Williams and stand up for him, but Ryan's dropped a lot of his passes. And at a certain point as a quarterback, you just go, dude, I'm not looking for number 4 anymore. I don't know if that's subliminally what's going on, but I don't think it's a stretch to insinuate that maybe he's just that's not the first guy I look for anymore.
That's a fair, yeah. I haven't thought about that. That's very valid line of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the number, how many drops is he up to?
8, according to our tracking, which is tied for 5th in the country.
Yeah. At a certain point, you have to be dependable. Now, there's a give and take, because some of the best most electric receivers in the NFL drop passes too. So where's the middle ground there where you're trying to get him the ball, but also trying to make sure he holds on to the football?
Yeah. The rush game, the running game, obviously, like you guys said earlier, don't anticipate Jam Miller is going to play. So it's a Daniel Hill, AK Deer. What's the deal with Kevin Riley? He's
out.
Okay.
Undisclosed injury.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
remember. Not publicly disclosed injury.
Yeah. Is this a game where Daniel Hill you just ride him out? And I mean, I don't know if you can throw an AK Deer in there. And again, you don't really have
You might have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go
it's
ahead.
either him or Dre Washington. I think they've kind of relegated Richard Young to kind of non-citizen status on the roster. I don't think it was Deer who got into the Auburn game when Jam got hurt. And I think when Kalen was talking about the running backs the other day, I don't think he mentioned Richard Young. He mentioned Dre Washington as having kind of some status in practice, doing some things there. So to me, it's those three, Hill, Deer, and Washington. And Deer might offer you something explosive. That's probably your higher potential option. So yeah, I think you run Hill as much as you can, but I don't know how much you're running the ball against Georgia. So I think you're probably,
even if Jam is available, his injury is to his lower leg. It's his ankle. I mean, it seems to be. So even if he's available, he's not going to be 100% of Jam Miller. I think even if he's dressed out, even if he can go, I still think Daniel Hill is your guy.
Yeah. Real quick, special teams, I feel like Talty's one probably has all of his confidence back. I mean, you make 2 kicks in the Iron Bowl on the road. I don't like saying no. I don't know how I haven't been a kicker. I don't know how the psyche works there, but like he's got to be in a better spot than he was a month ago.
I still think Kalen goes for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
A, philosophically, because that's who he is. B, because your kicking situation is what it is. Like, I think that's still what we see if it comes down to that.
Yeah.
You feel a little bit better about it, but I don't think you feel great.
I think you might feel better.
Got to improve, by the way. That's another one that got a little shaky.
Right. Yeah, there's some shanks in that Iron Bowl. The good thing about both of those is that you're playing in a dome.
Yeah.
And it's not a cold winter's night in Jordan Hare, which seemed to be the trick for Hunter Talty. Felt like home. Felt like Chicago.
It's like a poem.
We do those calendars, like where they have the chocolates every day.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, today's line was, settled in for a cold winter's nap. What's it?
I don't know.
Settled. What's the settled?
Cold winter's eve, maybe. I don't know. I don't know where we're going. Look, I was going to add. Yeah. I'm very curious, and it maybe relates to special teams. How much the crowd is going to play a factor in this game? Because I know I'm sure it'll sell out because it always does. But like, what are people rooting for?
That's a great point.
I think Alabama fans are like, just don't let us lose by 10.
Right.
And I think Georgia fans are like, I don't know. Like, I guess we want to win the SEC championship. That'd be great. But we have nothing to gain. They win, and they're still a top 4 seed. Okay.
Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. So that's where my head was. A long winter's night.
That might be where the fans' heads are. I don't know. I mean,
Alex, you mentioned it right there. What is the margin for error in this game for Alabama? I mean, does this pick? We'll bring it back to the most recent Tuesday college football rankings. Obviously, Alabama jumps Notre Dame. I think a lot of people kind of just assume, hey, that's the committee saying Bama's a lock. I still don't personally think so.
Can I do a Brian Windhorst? Like, they moved them to 9. Is 9 the number?
Right.
Like, is that as long as you're single digits, we're going to keep you in the playoff? And do they factor in injuries? Like, does Alabama say we're out without one of our best defensive players? We were without X, Y, and Z. I think as long as a single digit game, I think you feel better about it. Before they moved them to 9, I would have said a 1 touchdown game. Now I think if it's 8, 9 points, I still think there's a pretty good chance they get in. But anything more than that, I still think that what Mike is going to say, which is going to be a gut reaction, is true, because at the end of the day, they are human beings who are going to be watching a football game. And if you think they're not going to be swayed by that, I think you're lying to yourself.
I think you're right about that. But I also think you're right about the margin for error, if you will, from a point standpoint, growing, going from 10 to 9. And I don't want to put a number on it necessarily, because that's like, I think I wrote in our roundtable, like, it is, you know what it is. Like a blowout is something that you just, you know it when we see it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a number, but
you say that, but we all live on social media or the internet where people look at games like the Vanderbilt game, like, oh, Alabama dominated Vanderbilt. They won by 10. No, you didn't.
Right.
It was not a blowout.
But that's the thing. People can watch the game and know how it went.
If
you lose by 14 or 20 and it's a late score by Georgia that kind of made it look worse, then I think you're in.
That's what I was going to bring up too.
20? You think they'd be in if they lost by 20 points?
Yeah.
No. No. There's no what? No.
Given what I just said, if it's a late score by Georgia and the game was close, it was competitive, and then Georgia kind of pulled away at the end, a la the 2021 national championship game where you had Bryce just chucking the ball down.
You're saying it needs to be a one-score game midway through the fourth quarter, and then whatever happens from there happens.
Again, it's tough to put an exact number on it. It's just a gut feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
The other hypothetical in that is, as we're talking about it, what if it's they're down, Alabama's down 15 with 4 minutes and they go down and score, and then they cut it to a 7 or an 8, and that's kind of your number you're looking at. But is that a garbage time touchdown?
I think they will look for a way to give Alabama credit.
Right.
Because they want to keep the status quo. They don't want somebody in Birmingham pointing a gun to their head and saying, we're going to blow up the committee, get out of here. I think they want it to keep it as is. So I think if Alabama scores late to make it look better, everybody else will be like, oh, it didn't matter. I think they're going to come out and say it was a one-score game and look how competitive it was, and we're not going to ding
Alabama was going for it on fourth downs in the fourth quarter.
Yes,
well, no shit, they were, because they were down.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. It's funny because like the Clemson game, SMU game last year, people had these conspiracy theories that Clemson was throwing the game to make it closer for SMU and get another ACC team in.
No, they're just not good.
The funny thing is, like, if that happens here, and if like Georgia has a big lead and Alabama comes back, but they don't win the game, people are going to be like, Kirby Smart was throwing the game to get another SEC team in. Like, no fucking way. Kirby Smart needs to win against Alabama. He is not doing any of that.
Yeah,
he's got that little Bama.
Look up Kirby Smart photo recruiting board to see if Kirby has any sympathies toward anybody.
There's zero chance that Georgia is going to be taking the foot off the gas to get another SEC team in, especially being Alabama. That is their kryptonite. So we can put to bed any speculation about that. But I don't know. It's one of those where I think they're in a much better position. I think it was unexpected to see the committee do what they did on Tuesday night. It was a little bit baffling. I don't think it's wrong. Like, I think they could have done this a couple weeks ago. If Alabama was in front of Notre Dame, fine. Like, there's no argument.
It's broken, not the
timing of when they did it. Yeah. Like, after the Iron Bowl and after Notre Dame had a pretty comfortable, very comfortable win on the road at Stanford, like, to make that change in that particular week was just strange. And then, of course, Yurchek in his reasoning again was just a little bit bizarre in terms of Alabama had a gutsy fourth down call, and it's a tough place to play at Auburn, which is true. But then he cited Georgia and Vanderbilt having a tough time playing there, when Vanderbilt, in fact, did not even play at Auburn this year. Auburn played at Vanderbilt, which was a very strange moment in the teleconference the other night. It's very unpredictable what this committee does, and that goes back to what we were talking about is the unpredictability works both ways. Like, it has worked out in the favor of Alabama this particular week, but Sunday, maybe the unpredictability does not work out in their favor. But again, I think overall you feel much better about Alabama's position. I think you have a pretty good cushion in this game, as long as you keep it competitive, which every Alabama-Georgia game I've watched, they've kept it competitive. I can't think of a blowout that I've watched. So again, I think they're in a good spot, but you also can't just flop, and you also can't have an injury. Like going back to Ty Simpson, like Ty Simpson gets hurt in this game, that gives the committee a lot of ammunition to penalize Alabama. That would be a problem. So I don't know if that means you change your strategy. I don't think you can tell Ty, don't run the ball, because then you might get hurt and you might get left out of the playoff. Like that's a little crazy, but at the same time, like the committee is going to take into account if there is a quarterback injury. So something to keep in the back of your head.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of the college football playoff, and we'll get out of here in a few minutes, but I don't know if you guys saw, or I think you put on the board, Mike, that Pete Thamel reported that Vanderbilt was trying to get a 13th game. John Gruden had like a 5-minute video out about like what matchups could be played this weekend, have Miami, Notre Dame play. I'm all for that. I'm not a football player, but like, why not? If you have Georgia and Alabama, on Georgia's side, it's meaningless. Alabama, it's not. Ohio State and Indiana are playing pretty much a meaningless game as well. Why not have Miami, Notre Dame play, and loser is out, winners in?
Burn conference championships to the ground, and from their ashes will come play-in games. It's great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, don't give your best teams an opportunity to lose something. Give your teams that are on the bubble a chance to play themselves in.
And that would be part of a playoff expansion. I think people need to understand those two things are linked. That the Big Ten's proposal for a 24-32 team playoff would have built-in play-in games replacing conference champions. So in theory, it's not a super expanded playoff. You're just changing these conference championship games into playoff play-in games. So the games already kind of existed as more than it would be an expansion. And I think people will warm up to that idea, as much as the SEC is still trying to.
Yeah, all people need to do if they're on the fence about this is watch the ACC championship game and go, wait, who the fuck is in this game?
Right. Oh, look, the most pointless one of them all is the Big Ten championship game. As long as the game's semi-competitive,
game that nobody cares about.
It's not going to change anything. I mean, if Indiana wins, they'll be number one. Ohio State win number two, vice versa.
Yeah.
If Ohio State wins a fairly close game against Indiana, this rankings will be the exact same. And guess what? We might see that game later in the playoffs. We might see Alabama and Georgia later in the playoffs for a third time this year. This is dumb. I would much rather see Vanderbilt playing Texas. I'd much rather see Vanderbilt playing Miami. I think those games would make more sense. And quite frankly, I feel bad for Vanderbilt. As much as Diego Pavia is a villain in some people's minds, he's a damn good player. And
very damn good player.
At the beginning of the season that there'd be an SEC team with 10 wins, I think 99% of people would say they would be in the playoffs. Yeah. And it's kind of bad luck for them that they beat Tennessee by so many points that Tennessee got out of the top 25 this week, and therefore Vanderbilt has no top 25 wins. It's kind of the luck of the draw of their schedule that they didn't play the right teams in the SEC. And I guess they could have scheduled tougher in a non-conference, but they scheduled those games back when Vanderbilt was terrible. So, and then they had their two tough games were at Alabama, and they were competitive in that game up until Jam Miller's late touchdown, and Texas, which they came back from a big deficit and almost won that game. So both on the road. I feel bad for Vandy. Like in a generic year, that team with that resume would be a playoff team. In this particular year, they get screwed because of who they lost to. They lost to Alabama and Texas, and those are the teams right in front of them. So that's my soapbox on Vandy. I never thought I'd be
the makeup call. I think they should get a trophy. Yeah, they should get a trophy from all of this. It's called the Heisman Trophy for Diego Pavia. That should be the makeup call. Sorry, Fernando Mendoza. Sorry, Julian Sane. Still think Caleb Downs should be there from a call way back. But yeah, just give Diego the Heisman, and that's worth like a national championship for their recruiting. Right?
I'd still rather watch a Vandy Notre Dame game this week. Yeah. Like hell yeah, give me that over whatever the hell we're watching, Duke and Virginia. Like
you still might see a Vandy Notre Dame game. It'll just be a bowl.
Right, it just won't mean anything.
Yeah.
That's pretty good timing. I got the CBS alert that Kalen DeBoer is extremely happy at Alabama, which Mike wrote up. He was asked that during the press conference on Thursday. We don't do it a lot on here, but it's kind of a I told you so. Alex had a note a couple of weeks ago. He said it on here as well. Penn State writers, again, they got to do their jobs. But everything that we were hearing and Alex was hearing that on Alabama side, that there was no communication, and Kalen DeBoer further confirmed that. So next steps for Penn State, where they go, I don't know. That's not a Penn State podcast. But final.
Mike, know your face, though. Might be Brian Dable.
Mike Tomlin.
I know. I said that to you in the Mal Moore Athletic Facility. You laughed, and then you went.
I have been kind of I guess I'm a Mark Stoops hater, and I have been validated on that. But guess who has won an NFL playoff game more recently as a head coach than Mike Tomlin? Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien has won an NFL playoff game as a head coach more recently than Mike Tomlin, whose last playoff win came in 2016.
Let's not besmirch Mike Tomlin.
Oh, he doesn't have any losing seasons. Great. But like there comes a point where you kind of need to make a change. The Steelers are kind of at that point now. And I think a good landing spot would be Penn State. That's just me. Don't put it out there. I'm not reporting anything. I'm just saying, Mike Tomlin at Penn State. I think that would be fun.
And then Nick Saban to the Steelers.
Ooh,
I'm just kidding.
Lifelong Steelers fan, Nick Saban.
It was a joke.
Lifelong Steelers fan.
It's true.
Final question I'll ask you guys. I kind of ask a similar way every time going in our previews. What is the single top thing that Kalen DeBoer lays down his head on the pillow, or if he does sleep, I don't know if he's sleeping this week or not.
A long winter's nap.
Yeah, when he goes down for his long winter's nap. You see, it goes full circle here. You never know where we're going to go here. But what is he thinking about on this sleep tonight, on that plane ride, on that bus, going into the stadium before kickoff? Alex, start with you.
How do we get Ty back going?
Yeah.
I think this team goes as far as Ty will take them.
Yep.
As much as the defense has improved a lot, I still think they got to find a way to get him back where he was confident throwing the football. I think that's probably the number one priority.
Mike?
Yeah, I think it's the possibility of Ty turning the ball over, whether that's through a strip sack or through a pick, because that's how they lost the Oklahoma game. I think you start doing that. That's how you lose against Georgia. As Kalen has said fairly repeatedly lately, like this team's identity is the turnover margin, essentially. It's protecting the ball offensively, and it's forcing turnovers defensively. And if you get back to where you were for that 5-game streak of strip sacks and that kind of flurry of interceptions that Ty had, then you're in a tough spot for this game. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that will keep Kalen DeBoer up at night is the possibility of just coming out completely flat and having that nightmare scenario of a blowout come true. But I also think, from listening to Kalen for 2 hours total this week, that he's not really worried about his team coming out flat because he's obviously very positive and very high on them. So I don't know if that's, from a literal standpoint, what he's going to be worrying about on his pillow at night in the Atlanta Marriott Marquis or wherever the hell they stay.
Absolutely. Well, loaded show as always. Mike, Alex, and I will be in the Benz on Saturday afternoon, providing full coverage and going into what should be an eventful Sunday with the final rankings coming out. But as always, you can find these on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and right here on Bama247. Thank you, guys.